So these tiny squishy polyps basically looked at the empty ocean floor and said, "Hold my beer, we're building a mega metropolis." And then they spent the next few million years doing exactly that. It's like the ultimate slow-motion game of Minecraft, but if you lose, the entire planet's ocean ecosystem literally goes bankrupt. Seriously, coral reefs are the absolute main characters of the ocean. But right now, they're fighting for their lives in an unhinged boss fight against climate change. And if they lose, we're all going down with them. So today, we are diving deep into why these weird glowing rock animals are the only thing keeping our oceans from turning into a giant, lifeless soup. First, what even is a coral? Most people think they're just colorful rocks. Nope. They're a massive colony of tiny jelly-like animals called polyps. And these little guys have a wild symbiotic relationship with algae called zooxanthellae. Basically, the algae live inside the coral's skin, rent-free, and pay their rent in pure energy via photosynthesis. Once the polyps get that wheat algae energy, they start secreting calcium carbonate. That's literally limestone. Over thousands of years, generations of these tiny squishy dudes build limestone castles on top of their ancestors' skeletons. It's a bit morbid if you think about it, but hey, it works. That is how a coral reef is born. Now, if you think dinosaurs have been around a long time, coral reefs have been around much longer. About 485 million years. Yeah, you heard that right. They survived the extinction event that wiped out the dinosaurs. They survived ice ages. They've seen empires rise and fall, all while just chilling at the bottom of the sea, minding their own business and building their limestone empires. In fact, the largest coral reef is in Australia, the Great Barrier Reef. It is so massive you can see it from space. It's literally the largest living structure on Earth. But despite being older than dirt and tough enough to survive asteroids, these ancient underwater kingdoms are currently meeting their match because the water is getting just a little bit too warm for them. Alright, quick pause. Since these corals are basically the ultimate construction workers of the sea, I need to know, if you had to build a megacity underwater, what is the one rule you'd absolutely enforce? Would you ban plastic straws, or would you make shark riding a mandatory sport? So why should we care about some pretty underwater rocks? Well, coral reefs cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, but they support over 25% of all marine life. That is a massive carrying job. It's like a single apartment building housing a quarter of the world's population. Without them, the marine food web completely collapses. Coral reefs support a massive 25% of all marine life, despite covering less than 0.1% of the ocean floor by acting as underwater megacities. Their complex three-dimensional limestone structures create millions of tiny caves and crevices. These physical spaces provide crucial shelter where small fish, crabs, and octopuses can hide from predators and raise their young. Because tropical waters are naturally nutrient poor, reefs rely on a hyper-efficient energy loop. Microscopic algae living inside the coral tissue use sunlight to produce food, sharing up to 90% of this energy with the coral. This massive energy production kickstarts a dense food web, supporting everything from algae-eating parrotfish to apex predators like reef sharks. Finally, coral reefs survive by wasting absolutely nothing. The entire ecosystem functions like a perfect recycling plant, where the waste produced by fish and other creatures is instantly absorbed as nutrients by the corals and algae. This tight recycling loop allows an incredibly diverse population of marine species to thrive in what would otherwise be an aquatic desert. But wait, it gets better for us land dwellers. Coral reefs act as giant underwater buffer zones. When massive storms and hurricanes head toward the coast, the reefs absorb up to 97% of the wave energy. Without them, coastal cities would basically get obliterated by waves on a regular basis. They are literally nature's speed bumps. Coral reefs also produce oxygen thanks to a partnership with tiny algae called zooxanthellae that we mentioned earlier, that live inside the coral's tissue. These algae use sunlight and carbon dioxide to perform photosynthesis. As a natural byproduct of this process, they generate large amounts of oxygen, which is released directly into the coral and the surrounding ocean water. It is not just the coral's algae doing the heavy lifting. Coral reef ecosystems are also packed with other photosynthetic organisms like phytoplankton, seaweeds, and nearby seagrass beds. Together, this diverse underwater plant life absorbs carbon dioxide and pumps out constant streams of life-supporting oxygen into our atmosphere. In fact, the photosynthetic organisms found in our oceans, including those on coral reefs, are responsible for producing over 50% of the Earth's oxygen. This means that every second breath you take actually comes from marine life. Protecting these reefs is crucial to keeping our planet's global air supply healthy. But right now, the ocean is warming up and it's causing the ultimate toxic breakup. When the water gets too hot, the coral gets stressed and literally kicks the algae out. Remember, the algae is their food source. Once the algae is gone, the coral turns completely white. This is called coral bleaching, and it's basically the coral starving to death. If the water stays hot, the coral dies, turns to mush, and the entire ecosystem collapses. It's like removing the bottom Jenga block from a tower. Suddenly, all the fish lose their homes, coastal cities lose their protection, and we lose a massive source of global food and medicine. It is a certified disaster in slow motion. So, to recap, corals are squishy little architects that have survived almost 500 million years. They protect our coasts, feed the fish, absorb the toxic gas called carbon dioxide or CO2 from the air, and produce 50% of the oxygen we breathe in. So no wonder coral reefs is so important for our planet. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on our next video.